Hi everybody, welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to show you how to make some adorable spring cookies using dogwood and cherry blossom. So let's get started. So these cookies have been created with a branch of dogwood and a branch of cherry blossom, so obviously two iconic spring flowers. Here in Georgia, our cherry blossoms are in full bloom and the dogwoods are just starting. Obviously, they've just had the first day of spring a few days ago, so this is now obviously season for cherry blossom and dogwood. But this technique can also be used for other, for example, you could do flowering peach, plum, apple blossoms, and other types of blossoms here. And of course, dogwood comes in white and pink, and a very nice, obviously, flower to use. Now, the first thing is that the branches, the actual branches I have made, this is where I came out of using my small deer antler mold from my NL collection by Katie Sue Designs. And first of all, if you are ordering any of the products I'm showing you, we will include this handout, all right? So this handout has basically all of the directions to the dogwood and the leaves, and then how to use the fern mold, and then also the antler mold here. And so this obviously talks about the coloring and the cherry blossoms, okay? Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my antler mold. So this is my small antler mold, and the small antler mold, which obviously makes adorable antlers. And I do have a YouTube video which shows how to use how to do also them on spaghetti and make Christmas holiday cupcakes with them for like Rudolph cupcakes. So you can basically have a look at that. And so we're going to use the antler mold, and then I'm going to basically stretch it to make a very nice looking branch. Now for that I need to use some modified fondant. So in your directions here it says the branch is a number 12 modified brown fondant over the small antler mold. Now you can, I have here some fondant. I've actually got here a mixture of white and brown mixed. This is actually the Renshaw brown straight out of the pack. This is a little bit darker chocolate. This is just a little bit lighter. So you obviously can color this with gel food color as well. Now when we modify the fondant, we're going to take 60 grams of rolled fondant here. So just gonna get this to 60 grams and I'll pop that in camera. So just 60 grams, okay? Just using here a little small scale, so 60 grams of fondant, okay? And then once we've got the 60 grams of fondant, your excess paste, so there's approximately 2 ounces, okay? But generally I scale in grams. It's just much easier to obviously round up in grams. And then what I'm going to do is going to take some Tylose powder. So Tylose, which is a CMC, carboxymethylcellulose. We're going to take 1/8 of a teaspoon of Tylose. Now, if you were doing a lot of these, of course, you could do 120 grams and then 1/4 of a teaspoon, okay? But anyway, so I'm going to take 1/8 of a teaspoon into here. And then I'm going to add a comparable amount of vegetable shortening or vegetable fat, okay? So just going to do that by eye. Going to mix this in, and this is what we call modifying the fondant, okay? So this is actually going to change the structure, because generally in most of the Katie Sue molds, including my NL collection for things like the antlers, for pine cones, things like that, you're generally going to use modified fondant like this. Now the exception would be if you watch the video where I showed actually the antlers on the spaghetti to go in cupcakes, because I want these to dry really hard, all right, so they're going to be really strong. What I actually do there is when you watch that video, you actually use a gum paste or flour modeling paste, all right? But so actually what you can do is if I was making antlers on spaghetti, I could just, instead of putting 1/8 of a teaspoon of Tylose, I would double the Tylose. So I put in 1/4 of a teaspoon of Tylose to the 60 grams of fondant. And what that would do, that would be obviously make it like gum paste consistency. But here for the antlers, for the cherry blossom branch and dogwood branch, I need just it to be like this. Now, this needs to sit for at least 10 minutes, all right? So you generally would just do that, have that ready to go. And this keeps really well, so in 2 weeks' time I could still use this, but you do have to leave it for about 10 minutes, because when you first modify it, it's going to just feel exactly the same as fondant. It would be a little sticky to go into the molds. Now for making the dogwood, all right, technique-wise, all right, the dogwood and cherry blossom. So those of you that follow, obviously me on Flower Pro, in my Flower Pro book 1, there obviously, and of course there's also the videos to go with this, but in the filler flower there is the directions for making cherry blossom wired. All right, so basically I'm going to use a very similar technique to this. All right, and then except we're not putting a wire in there, we're just going to use some little nonpareils in the center to make it totally edible. And then also in where the hydrangea is here, you have the little dogwood. Okay, and again, this is shown on the video as a wired dogwood. Again, I'm using the same sort of concept, but I'm showing you this unwired. Okay, so you're really using the same techniques there. So for the dogwood, we're going to use a number 7 small sausage of white or pink gum paste. Roll the width of the hydrangea cavity. So I'm going to use your size guide, and I'm going to take a number 7 small. We also will include a size guide. If you do have any questions about any of the products I'm using, just obviously you can just send us an email to customerservice@nicholaslodge.com, or you can call us at 770-453-9449. You can also message me obviously on Facebook, and a lot of you follow me on Flower Pro, so you can obviously just put a message on there as well. But the number 7 small. We're going to just condition the paste, so we're going to take a little tiny bit of vegetable shortening. Okay, so just roll this into a little sausage, and then we're going to use your ultimate filler flower mold. All right, so we're going to use the hydrangea cavity here. So I'm just going to roll this into a little sausage here. So just going to roll this piece of paste into a little sausage. So the sausage wants to be about the width of the mold. You see how it's the width of the mold there, okay? And then what I'm going to do is going to use my companion tool. Just going to cut this in half and just mold this into 2 little smaller sausage shapes like this, all right? And then literally we're going to form them into a cross. So it's going to form them into a cross shape, and just going to pinch each one with my fingers like so. Okay. Now once we get that, we're going to take just a little tiny bit of vegetable shortening or white fat, okay, or you can also use a little easy release. So remember, easy release is just not quite as oily. This is made from organic beeswax, coconut oil, and lemon oil. So you're going to use either the shortening or the easy release. Whichever method you're using, when you finish with the mold, just give that a wash with a little bit of dish soap, some washing up liquid, a nail brush. Just scrub it and then just let it dry. I pop it in a food dehydrator, but just let it dry. You can also pop these in the dishwasher as well. Okay, so when you're doing dishes, you can obviously just pop this in the dishwasher to clean it. And so what I'm going to do is, in addition, I'm going to put just a little touch of cornstarch on there as well. And you place this into the mold. Okay, just going to position that into the mold, and I'm going to use my cosmetic sponge. With my cosmetic sponge, I'm pressing this into the end, all right? So remember, just like when we make hydrangeas, what this is going to do, this is going to just make it thinner on the edge, okay? Like so, okay? Now then we're going to take the hydrangea back. Now this was introduced last year for our first year birthday of Flower Pro. So the end of August last year, we introduced this as an additional mold. So this comes separate. Some of you may not have seen this, all right, but this, as I said, is a hydrangea back. For the dogwoods on a cookie, because you don't really see the back of them, all right, it's not quite as important to have the veining on here, so this is an optional step. But if you have this, you want to make them more realistic, you just pop that in like a slice of pie, and just going to press that in with your, and this is going to vein the back of the dogwood, okay? All right, and I'm just going to now flex the mold here. I'm going to use my little companion tool. So just sort of go around the outside here. This will just ensure that this is going to come, and you're going to just pop this out of the mold here. This will come out of the mold beautifully like this, all right? So see, so this is going to basically give you a hydrangea. If you do have any little like overfill, just go in with your companion tool like this. And then when you do, for example, like if this was a hydrangea, you just would soften the back of this just a little bit. So just roll it just a little bit on the back like so. Okay, and then what you would do is you'd pop this into crepe foam former like this, and you can also so you could make these obviously in different colors, and then once they're dry you can just dust these, and these could of course be used on a cookie. Here I have a cookie with 2 hydrangeas on and one of my Flower Pro leaves, so very nice to use as just a cookie, a flat flower. Additionally, you could also use, of course, you could do these on cupcakes as well. Now when we make the dogwood, all right, with the dogwood, we're going to, on the dogwood here, once we're going to press the companion tool into the petal ends to create the heart shape, all right? So what I'm actually going to do is on the back of the flower, you're going to take the companion tool and you're going to push it into the petal ends and just wiggle that around. So you see what you're going to do is you're going to get that characteristic sort of shape of the dogwood, all right? So you're just going to push this in and wiggle this around. Now you can also do this while it's in the mold, all right? So actually, a few days ago when we had St. Patrick's Day, I actually showed how to make shamrocks with this. So you can also do this once you've veined it. You can also do that while it's in the mold and just wiggle that around. If you find you feel that would be easier for you, just push the companion tool in and just wiggle around like that. But basically what you're going to end up with is you're going to end up with this characteristic shape of the dogwood. And then I'm just going to come in with my companion tool, just sort of press in here so you get this nice shape for the dogwood blossom, okay? All right, and then you can just flatten the middle just a little tiny bit. Okay, so that's the first step. So you can see the little dogwood flower. And of course this could be done in pink as well. This shows a pink dogwood. So pink dogwood is obviously very popular as well. And it's really nice like for sort of for Easter and Mother's Day. Obviously in the UK you have Mother's Day this weekend and we have Mother's Day in May here in the US. So nice for Mother's Day as well. Now for the center of the dogwood, we're actually going to use this cavity here. So this cavity, there are two of. These are the ones we use for the baby's breath, Gypsophilia. We use for Mimosa and Pussy Willow. Okay, and so what we're actually going to do here is we're going to take green gum paste number 4 and press into the large baby's breath Pussy Willow cavity. So we're using the larger of the two cavities here. I'm going to take some green paste. So this is going to be number 4 size. All right, so that's going to be a number 4 size ball of paste. So just a normal size, 1/3 below, 2/3 above. All right, so just like we normally do when we're measuring. So remember the hydrangea or the dogwood flower part was a number 7 small, so that wants to go through the hole. Okay, and again, you're just going to take this, just going to give it a little, make it into a ball, just put a little touch of cornstarch, corn flour onto there. And I'm just going to pop that into the cavity. And this is green, obviously green gum paste. Because generally when you're making flowers, you're always going to be using gum paste. And you're just going to press this in with the back of your companion tool. So this is going to almost about 2/3 fill this, okay? Now when we do, like of course when we do the cherry, we do the mimosa and the pussy willow, we have a wire in there, you flex the mold. Here we're just going to basically just remove this from the mold. And as you can see, it'll come out, it looks almost like sort of a little bit like a half of a pine cone, okay? And I'm just going to attach this. I'm going to use a little bit of piping gel. This is a little needle tip applicator. So this is great. It has a silicone top on it. When you fill this up, easiest way to fill this is if you just take some piping gel into a parchment piping bag, a plastic piping bag, or also alternatively even just a zip top type of bag, and just cut the end off and squeeze it in. We did have a question, actually somebody asked us about, can you put edible glue in here? You can do, and probably what it is, if you're making edible glue from scratch, I would just make it a little bit thicker, so use a little bit more Tylose, a little bit less water. But you can also put corn syrup in here as well. So I'm just going to put just a couple of little dots of piping gel into the middle here. And see the top goes on really easily. Just make sure you get that on nice and straight, and that will keep that. And then just going to actually lift this up with my companion tool, pop this into the middle here, like so. And voila, you have a gorgeous little dogwood, okay? And then we're going to use the crate foam. Now, the crate foam formers, these come in a pack of 2, all right? So you actually get 2 of these in a pack. You see, you just pop that into a crate foam former, and this is how you would dry your little dogwoods, all right? So that's how we do the dogwood blossom. Now for the dogwood buds, we're going to use the dogwood buds. So for the buds, we use a number 4 and number 5 in the hydrangea bud cavity. So on that same area of the mold where we had used the, this is the baby's breath, the mimosa, pussy willow cavity, you have the small, medium, and large. These are the hydrangea centers. So this looks like almost a hot cross bun, an Easter hot cross bun. So you have this square here across. So we're going to use the medium one with the number 4 and the large one with the number 5, okay? And so when we do that, will take your paste, so very similar technique. I've already just pre-measured this paste off. And of course, if you're measuring multiple balls of paste, just keep them underneath your little pot like this. This will keep them dry. And remember, you can access all of my Flower Pro YouTube videos, obviously through YouTube and obviously through Katie Sue. There's links on all of the Flower Pro packaging. And we have lots of great videos there for you to watch. So going to use the number 4. Going to make this into like a little tiny bit of a sausage shape. Just going to push this into the mold here. And that should just about fill the mold up level. Okay, and you can just trim off any excess paste if you have a little bit of extra on there. And then this would be the number 5 one. Usually you don't have to use any, as I said, just use a little bit of corn flour, cornstarch. You shouldn't have to use any, obviously, vegetable shortening or fat in here, but if you are having trouble with it sticking. So then you're just going to take these out, and these will pop out like that. And this gives you your dogwood buds. Now, the bud of the dogwood is 4 quadrant, it's like a quadrant, just like basically the flower, okay? So this is a 4-petal flower, so the bud has 4 sections. So that's how you make the little buds, all right? Now, the leaves, we're going to use the fern mold, all right? This is my fern mold, which makes obviously beautiful ferns. And in the instructions here, we're going to use a number 6 small in the bottom part of the leaf cavity. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to use this large leaf, which is the small, medium, and large. We're going to use the large cavity, and I'm only going to fill the bottom part, and this is just going to be then cut up to make some small leaves. Now there are other options. If you watch some of my other recent YouTube videos, you can also use like little leaves from, for example, the alpha pot mold here, or you can also use little leaves from the little spring basket mold. So there are several obviously options there you can use as well as far as molds go. So what we're going to do here is going to just take a number 6 small. I'm going to take a little bit of my vegetable shortening easy release, put that onto the fern mold. And all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to press this into the bottom part of the fern mold cavity. And just pop this in like that. Just going to push this in with my cosmetic sponge. So I'm just really about half filling the mold up. And you've got that little, obviously the little island we have here. So we're just filling the bottom part of the mold, all right, like so. And then once we have done that, I'm going to take this out of the mold. Just going to remove this from the mold here. And then what I'll actually do there, you see you've got these like almost like little tiny leaves. So I'm just going to use my scissors. I'm going to use my spring action scissors here. And I would just actually cut. So you see how you actually will then get little individual leaves on your fern, okay? So you just will cut those. You can, of course, you can cut like usually the first 4 of these. And that just gives you little leaves, all right? Now another way you can also do the little leaves, just a freehand. You could use like number 3, number 4 size pieces of paste. You know, this is another alternative. You just make it into a little cone shape. I'm going to use my Dresden tool, just going to flatten that like so. And then I'm going to take my companion tool, needle tip, and just going to make a little line down the middle. And of course, if you wanted to, you could actually even make just like little lines on the side. So you can do these freehand as well, okay? So that would be obviously making a little freehand leaf or using your mold. Now next step is going to be to show you how to do the cherry blossom. All right, so on the cherry blossom here, I'm going to, for the cherry blossoms, I'm going to show you both the flowers first. I'm going to use pink gum paste number 6. All right, so we're going to use actually the forget-me-not cavity. This is the large forget-me-not cavity. So again, just a little tiny bit of vegetable shortening into here. And then we're going to take a number 6 size ball of paste. With a number 6 size ball of paste, we're going to take this. Again, just condition the paste. So just work a little bit of shortening into this. This is actually the, this pale pink is the pink Renshaw gum paste, and we do have that on sale as well at the moment, spring sale for $4.50 instead of $6 as 250 grams or 8.5 ounces, okay? So, and it does freeze really well, that paste as well. So you can portion it out into small amounts and freeze it. So you're going to take your number 6 size, and what this is going to do, this is pretty much going to fill the mold here. I'm going to just use my little companion tool here, just going to fill this up. So this will actually just fill it like pretty much level, because we need this to be quite thick, all right? So you see how it's just a little bit sort of more than we need, which is fine because we want to stretch this. And you're going to flex your mold. All right, so this is going to give you your basically your little blossom shape, and this would be like, as I said, a little should be like a little larger forget-me-not. So then we're going to take your Dresden tool here. With the Dresden tool, what I'm going to do is I'm going to now just start to stretch. So you see how what I'm actually doing is I'm stretching. You generally do this on the soft side of your pad. Just going to stretch this to give your cherry blossom its shape, you see? So you see how we're actually building, see how we're stretching the petals here, and this will give the cherry blossom its characteristic. And some varieties of cherry blossom have a little tiny bit of a, like almost like a heart shape, so you could actually even go in with the same technique I showed you for the. And then once you've sort of stretched the petals a little bit, I'm just going to go in with the companion tool, just gently, just doing some little like scratches onto here. So this is going to give you just some like little additional veins onto the petals here. Just doing this quite gently, okay, like so. So here you have your little cherry blossom. And then the cherry blossom, I'm going to just cup the middle of this, just to almost like flatten it a little bit, okay. And then once we've cupped the middle, I'm going to take a little bit of piping gel. All right, and I'm going to put a little some piping gel into the middle here, like so. Put that back over, okay. And then I'm going to use some little nonpareils. Now, these are little yellow nonpareils. All right, so you can buy these, obviously, in any online store and cake decorating stores as well. But these are yellow nonpareils, and one of my new favorite little tools, this little dragée pickup tool. And so when you buy this, it comes as a little set. So you get the tray, you get the little pickup tool, and also the wax. And so the idea is this is actually orthodontic or dental wax. So you're going to take your, open the plastic off the top. Now it comes in a little zip top bag, so just keep this in there so it doesn't dry out. And if you ever needed any more of this, this is just basically orthodontic or wax for braces. So you're going to just, so you're going to plug the end of this, okay, with the wax. And then what we're going to do here, I'm going to just pick up the little nonpareils here. Now you can even just, for example, you could just like literally just put a little spoonful of there on there and just shake them, but I'm just going to put these on individually. So what I'm doing is I'm making here the little stamens. And this is, of course, traditionally, going back a few years ago, I would have done this with royal icing, but this is just, as I said, a nice technique. And the other nice thing about them is they're also perfectly round as well. We're just going to put just a little grouping of the nonpareils here, just around here to represent the little stamens, okay? So just make sure there's enough piping gel on your, so just if you, but don't put too much, okay? That's just a little bit of piping gel onto there. Just gonna lift this up like that. Then I would just keep this in the little zip top bag it comes in, and then that way you just have that ready to go. But I've used this after 6 months and it's still sticky and perfectly okay to pick things up, okay? So those are the little cherry blossom, and then your cherry blossom would again be popped into here into your crepe foam former. Just going to pop that into your crepe foam former, and you can do some a little bit smaller, so they would be like little younger flowers, and you can sort of stretch them. You can do different shaped cherry blossoms like that. And then cherry blossom buds are made with a number 4 and 5 in the large and extra large cavity bud cavities. So here I'm going to just take my paste, get this out of the bag. Just sometimes a little bit sticky in the bag. There you go. And so we're going to use the bud cavity. There we go. So this is the bud cavity here. All right. So this is the bud cavity which we use for flowers like geraniums, cherry blossoms with 5 petals, okay? So this is a 5-petal bud. So this is the small, this is the medium, this is the large, this is the extra large, all right? So we're going to be using the large and the extra large here. So we're going to put a number The number 4 will go into the large. So that's a number 4 size, and then the number 5 will go into the extra large, okay? So again, just going to put that little bit of corn flour onto there. Just roll that into a sausage, and it's going to go into the cavity, like so. Just going to push that in, and use your companion tool. And again, just trim off. If there's a little bit extra paste, just trim that off. And then this is going to be this one here. Okay, so again, just pushing that in with your companion tool just a little bit. All right, but you actually want this almost like a flat back on these, all right? So then again, you're just gonna release these from the mold, and you see this is gonna give you you can also just use your companion tool. I'm gonna pop that out. You see how this is gonna give you this will give you the little 5 sections. So this has got 5 little segments on it, all right? So this obviously would be for the bud of the cherry. And so very similar to the dogwood, it's just the dogwood has got 4 sections, and then the cherry has got 5. Now, so that's obviously making the components. You'd let everything dry, all right? So you'd let everything dry. And then once everything is dry, we'll move on to the coloring. So I'm going to show you. So this is a dry dogwood. Okay. Now the buds of the dogwood are green when they open, and so then they basically, as they grow and expand into a flower, they turn white. So they don't really have any color on them. But on the flower, so we're going to use here some Ondina Rose. So Ondina Rose is this sort of really pretty mauve color, and then I'm going to use a little prairie green. So I'm going to use some prairie green dust as well. I'm going to take a little bit of Ondina Rose. You could also use, if you don't have Ondina Rose, if you have like a plum color, use some plum with a little bit of corn flour, cornstarch added. All right, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to brush that into because on the dogwood, the sort of that inside part, so you're just going to just pull the plum, the Ondina Rose color, just onto the tips. And so just going to go onto the four tips here like this, okay? And then I'm going to take a little bit of the green. So this is prairie green, which is a soft green. And I'm just going to put just a little bit of that just at the sort of around the center. So I'm just going to just sort of just pounce with my brush just around the center, so you're going to get this sort of soft green color in the middle of the dogwood. Now the cherry blossom will be done in the same basic way. So here on your cherry. So I'm actually going to use the same color. I'm just going to sort of brush this color. This is a really pretty color to use on pink, you know, like, because actually Ondina Rose is a sort of a rose this color. And that's where the name comes from. So in one of my Craftsy Blueprint classes, I did the variety Ondina Rose, which is like a sort of David Austin style rose, but it's actually like this color. So it's called the Ondina Rose. So again, I'm just going to use a little bit of that just around the edge, and just a little bit of green just around the center there. You just want to make sure that this dries, because obviously if your piping jelly is still sticky, you're going to make a bit of a mess, okay? But you could pop those in the food dehydrator. And of course, if you wanted to, you could also put just a little bit of, this is actually a dry bud. You can also put just a little bit of pink on the bud as well, okay? So on the cherry bud, you could add just a little bit of pink and green if you wanted to, okay? Remember, these are just like simple little flowers you could use for cookies and cupcakes. They would be nice on a chocolate Easter egg. You could use them on a sugar egg, you know, so there's lots of different ways of using those in the springtime. All right, so that is the sort of how we make the flower. Now, coming back, so in actual time, this has been about 15 minutes or so. So obviously you need to leave this at least 10 minutes, all right? But as I said, this could be done next week. So we're then going to take a number 12 of modified brown fondant. So we're going to use your size guide. I'm going to take a number 12. All right, so it's going to be a number 12 size piece of paste. And then what we're going to do is taking the antler mold, okay, I'm going to again just going to put a little bit of vegetable shortening or some easy release into here, because this is quite a deep mold. So You'll notice how on some of the molds I use the easy release or the shortening of vegetable fat, some I don't. Generally when you have a deep mold like this will help, but also on shallow molds, it's really almost a bit like lining a tart shell. It enables us to be able to sort of the paste doesn't move too much. So that's the reason why on shallow molds like on my fern or my dogwood, the hydrangea, I do that. All right, so this is, as I said, now a little firmer. So what we're going to do is just going to take this number 12 size. I'm just going to put this into the mold. I'm going to dust just a little bit of cornstarch on the top. And I'm just going to actually just roll this into the mold like this with my roll-in pin. So you're just going to roll across the top of this like this. This is just a sort of a quick way to make the antlers. And then we're going to use a little scraper here. So this little scraper, these come, they're the little mini scraper, come in a pack of 2. All right, and I use these on a lot of my projects. And I'm just scraping, so you see how I'm just scraping the excess paste over. And I'm just going to do the same on the bottom here as well. Now, if you should have any little areas where you haven't filled it, you don't really worry too much, but you could also just like, for example, if you could just patch it. So literally you could just patch the paste like that and just repress it. And then what I do here is I'm just going to just press this on with a cosmetic sponge. And of course you do this when you're ready for the branches to go onto your cookie or your cake. I'm going to just remove that little bit of excess paste at the bottom here. Now, of course, when I did on my videos you can watch where I took the spaghetti, you can actually cut across there and make a shorter antler, or you can do a full antler with spaghetti in for like Rudolph cupcakes and cakes. It's a really, really nice way to do this. And of course, the spaghetti is totally edible. So this is the small antler, and then all I do to remove this from the mold, I'm just going to flex this upside down here. And just going to take the antler, and then what I do is I use my little scraper here like so. You see this will just come out beautifully out of the mold. All right, now all I'm going to do here is I'm literally just going to take the antler as soon as I remove this from the mold, and I'm just going to stretch it. So you see how that is going to create the branch for my cookie, you see. So you can just literally stretch that. And you could also use this as a tree. You could use this in the fall. You know, you could do this on a cookie or a cupcake with little fall leaves, like my little Japanese maple from my foliage set. Lots and lots of fun ways of doing this, all right? If you weren't ready to use them straight away, you can stretch them like this and let them dry, or you could just put them into like a zip top bag on some wax paper, and then when you're ready to use them. So when we put this on the cookie, obviously I've got an egg-shaped cookie, I've got a round cookie. I've used here, this is the Katie Sue embroidery grid embosser. So this is like a cross stitch design. Okay, so like a cross stitch design. It's a very, very nice mold. So you put this onto your fondant, and I use my Flower Pro press onto the top. All right, if you watch my spring basket demonstration or video, you'll see how I use this with the basket weave embosser. And it's nice just to give a little bit of textural detail onto here. And then you just sort of look at how your branch is going to sit. And of course you could have this as long as you want, and then you can just trim that off as needed, and you can just sort of texture the end of that a little bit. And then I will turn this over. I'm going to pop just little dots of piping gel. As I said, you can let these dry a little bit, you know, in a shape, and then they'll be sort of hold their shape. They don't take long to dry. Again, you can take them, or you could put them onto a cookie while they're soft, like this. So you see that's going to give you your, and then when you attach the components on here, I'm going to put on the little leaves first. So I'm going to put just like a little tiny leaf onto there. So I'm just going to use here's the piping gel, and then I'm going to put a larger leaf down here. And these leaves are still, you know, soft, so you can pop these on. So you can just add your leaves first normally, and then once you've got your leaves on, you can add your larger components onto here. So I'm going to put then another little leaf up here. Okay, so just put a few little leaves. I'm going to just put another one down here. Just will balance that bottom part there like so. But whether you do the freehand leaves or the ones that are used in the, there we go. Just going to make that just a little tiny bit shorter. There we go. So it sort of fits within the cookie, because then if you're going to pipe around the edges, it's not going to obviously get in the way of the edge. So that's how you would build up the pieces here, all right? And then so then what you do is you'd add your dogwood. So you could just then add your dogwood onto there, just press that in gently, and then you can add in your dogwood little buds here, another little bud there. So you can put the little bud on the end of the stem and on the end of the stem here. Usually it's a good idea to have these sort of dry, so they would be easy to go on. And here you have your little branch of dogwood ready for your spring cookies. Now, a couple of other things. With the antler mold, you can also use Tootsie Rolls. So of course, you can use model-in chocolate, all right? So model-in chocolate, but Tootsie Rolls, which really is almost like a commercial model-in chocolate. So normally, if you just keep these in your apron pocket, they're going to be soft, or you can also take them out and just put them in the microwave 5 to 10 seconds. What it's going to do is going to warm it up. So this one is made with a Tootsie Roll. It's going to have a little bit of a shine to it, but you see it actually will stay flexible. So this one was actually made like 2 weeks ago, and it's still flexible, you see? So I could actually bend that to shape. And of course, this is tastes nice. It's chocolate flavor. The technique there is a little different, that you just will push the paste into the mold as you go. So just almost like push it with your finger away, because you can't really use a scraper on it because it's a little bit more dense than the paste. But as I said, technique. I also use the Tootsie Rolls in my pine cone molds. They work great as well. And the big antler, this is obviously the large antler. And again, I have a totally separate video on that. But this is obviously my large antler, which is obviously wonderful for like rooms cakes and rustic cakes. And you can make just a small part of this. You can do it half relief, and on the videos I show how to make half relief ones, three-dimensional ones. Use a little end cap on there, so you can make really realistic looking antlers. All right, so those are great for like sort of rustic wedding cakes, grooms cakes, and things like that. So there's a video on the small antler, there's a video on the large antler. So those are obviously how you would make the little dogwood cookies, and also the little cherry blossom cookies. And so just got a few little extra sprinkles on here. There we go. And there we go. Just going to remove that out the way. All right. So here you have the, as I said, just some quick ideas for spring, for Easter, for Mother's Day, for sugar eggs, chocolate eggs, petit fours, cupcakes, all different types of application, using my ultimate filler flowers to make quick little dogwoods and cherry blossoms, my small antler to make the branches, and then also the fern can be used for the leaves. So I hope you've enjoyed this video on spring cookies using dogwoods and cherry blossom. We'll have fun making these. So happy spring, and until next time, sweet wishes.